So, welcome to Area 51 Raceway here. I'm just opening up this little chat thing. If anybody's interested in any questions on slot car scratch building or anything. I'm trying to master this, so bear with me. So far, everything looks excellent. I can't tell if anybody has joined or not. So, if you have, say something. Because I'm experimenting as usual, and again, I'm not sure if anybody's watching it. Oh, okay, hold on. Okay, it is working. There we go. You can now message. Got it. So, one watching now. Okay. Who's watching me, or is it just somebody random? I was going to talk about scratch building and tools about scratch building. I was just going to open it up because I know some guys do want to do it, but they're not sure and stuff like that. This is my DJI camera that I'm using for the first time, my Pocket Pro. Actually, probably the second or third time. I don't know if it's behind. I don't know if you could hear me well, or if it's, how would you say, stutter or behind or lagging. So I know I got a good internet connection. It's not wired, but I have a decent Wi-Fi router right here in the room. So I'm just here to answer anybody's questions about something, or I have some cars here that I could talk about. And I know one popular video that I did was the bending of this channel to make it look like a chassis, and it's not hard to do. It's from an old article that Harry Wise put on Home Racing World, and it's called the Dingus build. And what you basically do is you're just bending this. If you can see how I made it look like a frame rail, bending it up and then angling it, and then what you do is you solder another piece of brass underneath here to mimic, you know, the front end of a car. So you can see it's got that bend right there. You get up close, you can see that, just like that. That's basically what it looks like. And all I did was really copy this chassis from the model. So I just copied it and everything, and kind of, you know, copied, you know, the plastic model, and then back here I added, you know, the bar and stuff, and then the mount for the motor and all that, the JK bracket. And this is a 1/8 axle, 27 tooth crown gear, and a 10 tooth pinion gear. And this car was a lot of fun to build. I'm really proud of this one. I like it a lot. As I always say, I like it a lot. So I just want to talk to anybody, if anybody had any questions. I see Emilio Rivera, thank you, sir, for the thumbs up. Do you have any questions that you want answered about scratch building? This is my beach racer right here that I'll be entering, and I'll take that off and do that more there so everybody can see that. You know who I am. And fiddling around with this here. And so this is the basically the basic chassis that I put together. And this is a real easy one to do. It's very simplistic. This is a guide tongue for the Cobra guide tongue from Professor Motor. Now I use that one because I had a bunch of them. And then this is a commercial guide, as opposed to the Slotting Plus guide, which is different. The Deep Wood guide. You could use this or a Slotting Plus guide. There's many ways to make your own guide tongue. You can make one yourself out of 8264 brass, or you could just buy one that's made like this, and then you just put the guide in here. You know, the commercial guide is what this is, and it's not really hard to do. And again, this is, you know, 8243, I believe this is the brass number, and then you just solder it to your 8264, you know, brass here, this channel here. And then your motor bracket, it's a JK motor bracket, and This is an 8130. The tube is from an 8130 K&S number, and you just solder the bushings. I don't know if you could see how they're soldered on there. Get up close, see that? I'll get my little pointer here. Hope that's focusing in. But right there, this is the 8130, and this part right here is where you stick the tube in initially and solder it, and you cut this. The last part is you cut this to get room for your crown gear, and you know, so your pinion gear can mate with it. And it's just like I said, it's a basic deal. And then this right here is a 1161 brass stock, and that is the size you would need, which would be 3/32, and this is a 3/32 axle. And compared to the 1/8 one, this is my beach racer entry. I haven't completely finished the interior on it, but here's the body, and you can see the body how I used what's called black wash to give it that you know, appearance of not so chromy, but it has a little, like, you know, contrast to it. And then I did the rest of that with the body, and then I cleared it. And this is the way it looks. It's a little dirty right now because it's been sitting, but, and it does the same thing on the back, you know, a little black wash, you know, give it a little, like, you know, raced look. But that's this chassis here. Well, I mean, anybody has any questions on anything? I see there are 3 people watching. Don't be shy. I mean, no question is a dumb question or a stupid question if you don't know. I know guys are really, like, kind of shy away from this kind of work because they think they can't do it. I have a 12-year-old grandson, and he put together a GTO. And let me grab that, and I'll show you. So this is the car he put together. My grandson built this. Originally, he brought the model kit. It was a Revel kit, and he just wanted to put the you know, just build a static model. So I'd ask him, hey, you know, Aiden, that's his name, would you want to build a slot car out of this? Because you could actually make a slot car out of this. And he agreed to do it. So I have pictures of him doing this and all that stuff, because he did do it in videos. So he soldered this chassis with my guidance and did all this work. He put the body mounts, the wire holders, the front axle, the motor bracket, the tube. The cutting part I did for him because, you know, he's 12 at the time when he did it. Now he's 13. He's a little older. And he put this chassis together, and then he painted the car himself because I was with him when he painted it. He painted the interior with, you know, a brush. He painted the driver, and then I put the Eagle decals on and then mounted the body for him and put the interior for him because I had to put this in here. And this is how the car came out, and the car runs really good. Really, really nice looking car he put together. So, I mean, if a 12-year-old could do this, you know, no doubt you guys can. It's not very hard to do. It's just, you just have to make the attempt and do it. So, anyways, that's his car. I'm really proud of what he did with that one. So, when you go to 1/32 cars, it's basically the same thing as this, except for you're just making a smaller version of it. This is the very first car I put together right here. This is from the Stinker chassis build videos that Harry put out. So when I first saw his scratch building stuff, I was really fascinated by it. And all I did was I got the pieces in the video that I need. I did the instructions exactly on the video, and this is what I built. This is the very first scratch built chassis in 1/32 that I did and sent it into the showdown. And it won fastest lap, so it did real well. And you know, it was something I learned how to do by watching his videos. And this is a Carrera body, a GTO body that I had lying around. All I did was hog out the wheel wells, and again, it's not perfect, you know. Hogged out the wheel wells, you know, with a Dremel, and kind of went along and kind of made them bigger. And you know, I put the wheels on and gave it the little dirt track look. I made the driver, which it was a tray driver, and this driver was from another resin kit that I had gotten that I didn't like. And then this is basically, this is like a mesh for, like, you know, the laundry socks. That's what this is. I cut it out and made it like a little window mesh. And I just followed the rules that he had, and you know, put the car together. And this was my very first scratchbook card, and this is the Slotting Plus guide, as you can see. And you know, it was really fun doing this car, and I learned a lot from it. And as I continue building, I keep learning more and more, because you don't know everything, because every car is always uniquely different. And of course, I've gotten to this point where, you know, I built a chassis like this, a little bit different than the stinker chassis. I used the Cobra tongue guide holder and just did it a little different, but all in all, it's, you know, it's what it came out was this, you know, this kind of car right here. And then this was my very first mod build, and this is all, you know, brass wire. There's no steel in this, and this is how I made this and mounted the engine and just figured it out is what I did. Because I mean, it's kind of like hit and miss when you do stuff. And again, if you do make a mistake, you could unsolder it. It's no big deal. But then we have, you know, the land barge series, and this car has been the HRW headquarters. This is again a simple chassis, you know, 8264 brass. Now this right here, this tongue guide is a I can't remember, it was from Professor Motor. It's the bigger tongue guide and has the recess in here for like a commercial track guide, as you can see. And I put this together, and this was a real simple chassis to build. This didn't take but like an hour and a half. I just get everything done and putting it together, and I mean, it came out really nice. You know, it looks real good. And the car, you know, itself took time to do the model, and then the interior, I used the full interior, and basically put this together. This is actually after a real racer, Fred Lorenzen, excuse me. And this is what the car looked like, you know, in the 60s when he was racing in NASCAR. You see the body float there. It had blue wheels, and it was white, number 28, his name, and it was Holden Moody, I think it was the people that was racing. It was Lafayette 4 in Fayetteville, North Carolina, and of course the NC kind of got covered up there. But this is a pretty cool car, and again, this just doing it. I feel like I'm talking a lot here because nobody's asking any questions. If you guys have any questions, please ask. Want to be able to answer something if something has, you know, someone has something to say. But as far as tools go, I mean, it's important to get like a Dremel. This is a Dremel light. You get these from Amazon, and you'll need this for like trimming the body if you have to trim the body a little bit, or if you cut some pieces of brass, or, you know, stuff like that. One good amount of tools to have for sure is, I'll show you here, are these, I don't know, wire cutters. This is a smaller one, and then the bigger one, and this is great for bending wire if you need to bend wire for like chassis, because even the wire that is 62 thousandths is hard to bend, and this stuff makes it easier when you hold it and you just, you know, bend stuff. But these are really important tools, and all this stuff you can actually get from Harbor Freight. This is Craftsman, but Harbor Freight sells a lot of tools that you would really, you know, you could get from there, because this is all very like light, you know, light duty work you're doing here when you're building chassis. Drill bits, you know, a drill bit set comes in handy. I'd recommend going with something from Amazon. This is from Walmart, and I found out that one of these drill bits is like bent, because when I put it on the drill, it does this. So I know this is not the greatest, you know, set of drill bits to have, but if you find some quality ones, I would go with that. You go on Amazon, I'm sure they make some nice ones. This is really super cheap. This is only like $3 or something, but I would probably question not doing that. Basic hand tools are like, you know, your grub screw tools. This is a 0.9, which is a common one for the 3/32 gears and some of the CB wheels, and then this is the bigger one, 1.5. And then the one really you would be messing with is the 1.3 and the 0.9. The 1.5 is actually for the Revel car that I have, which is, I did some work on that. And then, you know, your basic set of screwdrivers, flathead, Phillips, all these little hobby ones that you would use for, you know, working on the grub, you know, taking the wheels off and everything. put them back. The small files are important. If you have any small files like this, hobby files for, you know, filing stuff down, like want to file the holes and stuff like that. What else? It's good to have scissors. X-Acto blade is important. This type of blades, you know, scissors, commons tools. If you eat popsicles, popsicle sticks come in handy too for a lot of various things too. Also, you know, what other tools? The soldering iron's important. The soldering iron I won't show you. Mine is a kind of too fancy for this stuff. The one they have on Amazon, that's the 40-watt one, the Weller one. It's like got a little soldering station. That's probably the best way to go. Is that because that's all you really need, as long as it has the wide tip. And when I say wide tip, I'm going to get mine out, and you see that's got the wide tip on it. That's what you're looking for, is the wide tip one. I know it's not focusing, but this is right here, wide tip, not the pointy one. If it's a pointy one like this, you're not going to be able to transfer heat as well throughout the brass when you're soldering a chassis. So this is a really good one to get, is the wide tip one. And of course, the other stuff that you'd want to get is, you know, obviously solder, and 60/40 solder is fine. You don't need silver. I've used silver one time. It's really not necessary. It's kind of overkill for these cars. And then you want to get Flux, which is your Stay Clean Flux. And I got a bottle of it down here. And I'll show you it. This is the Stay Clean Flux, of course. And then, you know, the solder, as I mentioned. I'll put that back down there. Oh, there we go. And then I used to get these little stations for cleaning the soldering tip. It's like little brass stuff, like brass or copper. I can't remember what this is. It's like a cleaning. You run your soldering iron through here and you clean it up real good. And as you can see, that looks pretty clean. That's the way it should look. You don't want your soldering tip dirty. And what else? Oh, here goes my UV glue. What else should we talk about here? Oh, my UV glues are flying out of this little shelf up here with all my stuff. Let's see. Another important one is, God, I hope I don't drop it on my computer, is the slot car invasion gear puller and pinion press, or pinion puller and pinion press. This is from Slot Car Corner. What's up, Jersey Mike? What size solder? Good question, sir. See, I like this guy's. This is 0.8 millimeter solder. That's good enough. I don't know what it is in thousandths. This is from Amazon, so you could get this on Amazon. So it's it says right here, diameter is 0.8, and that's all you would need. That's enough. You don't need the super thick stuff. I have the super thick stuff, like stuff like this. No, you don't want it that thick. I actually use this for making headers for the mod cars, because this is exactly the size that a header tube would be. And when I do the header tubes, you drill on the side of your little engine block. And what's nice about these is that you could bend them, because when you're building the chassis, you may have to move the headers around. But something this thick, you don't need anything like that. But yeah, this is the size solder you need. Thank you for mentioning that. And again, these are the tools you need to invest in. So this is a pinion, puller, and press from Slot Car Invasion. You get this from Slot Car Corner. This tool, if you plan on doing a lot of scratch building, is your go-to tool when you're doing stuff. Another one is the pin vise is important, and this is where you put your little drill bits and you make your holes in your brass. Or if you have a cheap drill, you could do that. But the thing with the drill is that you have to be careful. You need to put too much pressure, or you could, you know, oblong hole when you slip through. So you could use a drill, but it has to be in super slow speed. But a pin vise takes a little time, but this is a cheap tool. It works very well too. How I cut my brass tube for like the axle is I use a tubing cutter. This is larger than 8130. I think this is I can't remember what this one. It's a larger one, but I usually go like, you know, right there, and this is like a tube cutter, and you spin it, and then what you do is you just clean up the beveled edges off with a file and kind of just get rid of that, so you could stick your bushing in there when you're bushing for your axle. These are from Amazon too, cheap. This is you know, like I said, little mini pipe cutter is what I use, or you could use a Dremel, but this seems to be a little smarter for that. Yeah, the header part, I learned that from Harry and another guy who told me, because these right here I actually made out of copper. Those I actually put on the board, on the jeweler's board, and made these headers. So this is out of copper. And when he saw that I did that, he said it was pretty cool I did that, but he told me about the easier way of actually using this as headers. And the thing is, you could bend them and mold them, and then you cut them, or you could even paint them. And the thing is that you put them together like all four. Is when you build the chassis, if you need to adjust them, you can move them around. So this way you're not stuck with, you know, they're in one position. Whereas this car right here, obviously, those came from the model kit. That's why they look that way. But you could also do the same thing here. Put a tube like that, like a collector. Make a collector out of brass. And let me see, you'd say making a collector out of like brass like this. This, I believe, is 81. This is 29, I think it is. Or it could be something else, I forget. But then you stick your, you know, all these little guys in there. You know, I'd probably need one bigger than this. Or actually, this is the size it could be for 1/32 for headers. And then you just stick them all here at once and make a collector. But I got that trick from Harry. He told me about that. So using soldering wire to make headers for mods. Let me see, Rambo Rob, where did you get that number 6 Valvoline car? I'm sure you don't make that anymore, but man, that thing is sweet. Here, I'll bring it out. So that car actually bought on eBay. Hold on a second. You're going to hear me in the mic as I walk around to the track here and I disappear from camera. So the Valvoline car is the Ford. I think that's what you're talking about. I got lucky with this one, Rob. I got this car from eBay. You're talking about this one, right? This is the one you're talking about? So this one right here, I actually bought from eBay, and what the guy did was he put it on a Carrera chassis, and you could see he cut it so that it would fit. Yeah, no problem, Mark Martin, that's right. It's a Mark Martin car. And he put it over a, like I said, a Carrera COT chassis, and he made the post for it and everything. Real good job he did. And I bought this from eBay. But yeah, this has been with me for a while. You know, I changed the tires to Paul Gauge tires, I think, I don't know if these are Paul Gauge tires, I can't remember. This may be silicone. But yeah, I've had this car for a while. It sits in the little garage that I have there on the track. And yeah, it's a cool looking car. I'm glad you like that. And you noticed that, right? You noticed that right in the videos and stuff, yeah. Yeah, you know what? You could do one in 1/25 or 1/24 scale. I mean, you could build a chassis for that. You know, I'll show you another example of building a chassis for like a Ford NASCAR. Like here, hold on a second. I got one that I did. So I got a Scalextric body from, you know, a Scalextric slot car. And what I was trying to do was I was trying to make a chicken pit special from the movie Stroker Ace. And what I did was I got the Ford Thunderbird from Slot Car Corner. It was the yellow and black one. And what I did was I took all the decals off. I painted it red. And I had the decals for this, but the type of decals that they were for were stacked decals where you put one and then you stack another one, and it was too frustrating and I couldn't do it. I may try it again because I haven't lost hope for this car, but this is the exact same year that the car that Burt Reynolds used. So this is the Scalextric body. I kept the interior. What I did was I made a scratch built chassis for this. As you can see, that's a scratch built chassis. I painted it black, and this thing whips around pretty good. And I used some CV wheels and some Paul Gauge urethane tires, and this is what I got here. It's this car. Yeah, this is 1/32 as well. You could do a 1/32 one, like I said, if you could find a body like this. Strip it down, because it's really easy to strip the bodies down. You just use alcohol and all that stuff comes right off, and then I wouldn't even worry about sanding it. I would just clean it up real good, primer it, and then spray your paint. This is 2X Rust-Oleum paint, cherry red I think this is, and Rust-Oleum paint's really excellent. What I did with this car, like I said, I stripped it down, I washed it really good. This one I don't think I put a primer on it. I just made sure it was really good, scrubbed it down, wiped it down with alcohol, And then I sprayed this with the 2X paint from Rust-Oleum. And then what I do with my paint jobs, yeah, rubbing alcohol, 91%, I think it is rubbing alcohol. You just put it on there, you know, let it dry. And then what I do, only with hard model bodies, like hard model kits, for resin or any type of 3D printed cars, I don't do it to. So I have a dehydrator. So I have a food dehydrator, and here's a trick I could tell you guys. A food dehydrator, if you get into this more, really works extremely well. So the food dehydrator is what I use to dry the paints on these cars. The only thing I don't use it for, like I said, is resin vacuum formed cars or 3D printed cars, because they'll warp and then you'll be pissed off, because I've already done that twice on accident. It could happen. But on hard plastic cars like this, you're good. All you need to do is paint the car, you know, do your coat, and you put it in the dehydrator for about 8 hours, and it cures. So you're able to get things done a little bit quicker. You don't have to wait 2 days or something. Even if you put it in there for 8 hours, I would wait wait a day just to be sure. But I mean, usually it dries really quick and you get a hard, you know, it's perfect. But this is what I did with this car. This is supposed to be a chicken pit car, but that's what you could do with 1/32 bodies, is make chassis for them. The white letters are from Gopher Graphics, and what I did was live and learn. Yeah, no kidding. What I did with this is I used the Gopher Graphics, and I put the decals on the tires, and then what I use is floor shine to coat them, to seal them. And this is floor shine. You could pick this up anywhere. It's just, it used to be Future Shine, but it's changed different names. But this is an old bottle of it, and I've had this for a long time. So anything that's a floor gloss from Pledge, that's for floors, is what you use. And what I do is I get a paintbrush, and I just, only the rear tires, I just put it on the outside to coat it, to seal it, because I mean, you can't rub them off. You'd have to really put your nail in there and peel them off. And then on the fronts, I usually put floor shine on the front tires, because what you want is these to slide. I've used with what's a great idea, the on the floor shine. Is that what you're saying, Rob? If that's what you mean, yeah, it's a good idea. It just seals it. I mean, eventually it will rub off if they do get banged up enough, but it does seal it enough. And then on the front tires, you just put floor shine, because you want the front tires to be slippery or no resistant or no grip, because as the car is going down the track, you don't want it to get caught and then flip the car over. If these slide, it allows the car to maneuver better and handle better. And that's why I always paint everything with floor shine on my front wheels on all my stock cars. As you can see, I've done it on this one too a little bit. I probably need to recoat it, do another coat. But so back to the floor shine part there. So the floor shine really helps with handling and make sure that the front end slides, because you don't want no grip in the front end. It's not like a real car. Yeah, the floor shine. Okay, you didn't meant the floor shine, but that's a good thing. If you use nail polish, the only problem with nail polish is it turns hard as rocks, and then it sounds like you have a steamroller going over your plastic track or wood track. You'll hear it. I wouldn't recommend also, I mean, I haven't really super glue. I wouldn't really use that, and I wouldn't use nail polish. I think floor shine is the best. It coats it nicely. It doesn't turn everything hard as rocks. And I think it works well, and I've been doing that. I have used floor shine, excuse me, I have used nail polish and super glue on some of the Carrera cars, and you could hear them. They sound like rocks, and I need to replace the tires. Eventually, they sound terrible. You'll hear them rolling down the track. Anyway, see, what else should we talk about? Tools. Any questions on tools on anything in particular? I mean, UV glue is a good thing to have. It could go into some products. So here's UV glue. So this you get from Amazon, and it comes with a light and two other types of glues here, as you could see. Right here, these are the two types of glues. And what this is great for is windshields. So as you can see, I used UV glue here. Because when you use super glue, and I did do that in the beginning, it clouds the shit out of the windows, and then it looks terrible. It really looks really bad, and then the window's all cloudy, and then it really screws up the plastic because the vapors from the actual super glue mess it up. So if you use UV glue, and it'll be on there fine. It's fine. Stay on there, and it does it real quick. You shine the light on there. That's what this is like a UV light. You shine it on there, and about 30-40 seconds, and it's hard, and then the window's in there, and you're good. So that's a good thing to get if you get UV glue for that, that kind of stuff. Let's see. Here's the alcohol I was talking about, Rob. This is alcohol right here. You get this from Walmart, 91% isopropyl alcohol. Let me see. What's your question there? Do I absolutely need a pinion tool to pull the gear on the motors, or can I get away with? Honestly, Rob, I would get the pinion tool. I mean, they make other ones. Like I have a real tiny one here that I've had for a long time. I mean, there's no way you're going to pull the gear out without screwing it up. So I'll show you a gear. Okay, I'll show you an example of a motor I have here. Here I have a motor here with a gear. Now these things are really hard to get on there and to pull off. So I mean, you really need the tool to do it. So here's the little tiny one. And what this does is this goes on the very end of the motor shaft. And as you can see, you just pull this out. Now the reason why I said the other tool, because it's a 2-in-1 tool. And really, to be honest, if you want a scratch build, I absolutely suggest you get this. It's a must. So here's this way of pressing it out. And then to press it in, you would use this part right here. Go right here and show you. So I've done it in a few videos, or one of the videos I did on assembling one. And then right here, there's a little hole there, and you just line up the hole with the shaft, and what you're doing is you're pressing it like this. So yes, you do need it, Rob. You can't get away without it. I mean, you could get, I figured I'd mess up the gear, yeah, you would, and then you'll be buying a bunch of gears, because the gears aren't really, super cheap. They're like $2 or $3 or $2. So I mean, it's kind of like wasting money that way. But yeah, I really highly recommend it, Rob. If you're going to do scratch building, this is a must. The only downfall about this thing is that it had like Loctite on here. You see how this is spinning? So when this gets tightened, this thing does this, but don't fear. All you have to do is get a hex key wrench, which is on the back there, and you could still use this. And it's not nothing to do to say this is a bad tool, or slot car invasion messed up. It's just, that's the way it's built. But right there's a little Allen head or key, and you could use that to tighten it. Yeah, I would, dude. Honestly, if you plan on doing it, I mean, if you're going to do scratch building and do it constantly, because once you do one, and I already talked to a few guys that have done one, and they're like, this is fun, I'm going to do another one. And that's the shit you run into. You're going to have to buy stuff. Yeah, it makes life easier. Because, I mean, I don't know no other way to really pull it out or put it on. I mean, unless you're like Superman, you get your fingers and pop it off and push it on, and then you're a badass, because I can't do that. But this really is important to have. And this is at Slot Car Corner. The reason why I mention Slot Car Corner a lot is because they have a lot of the tools and a lot of the materials for scratch building. Because back in the day when Harry used to do it way back then, 20 years ago, 15 years ago, they didn't have any parts for what they do, what we do now, or I do now. They used to do it so different, and they used to do different things and use things around them to make it work. But yeah, this is a must. I do have an older one, which is one of those for pressing pinions. It's one of those C-clamps. They're like tiny ones like this. I don't have it out here to show you. I have it in my commercial box that I used when I used to do commercial racing a long time ago. And it's like a C-clamp, and it had a little hole drilled in it, and you just put the gear in there, and you would pull it in. It's kind of how would you say, very archaic, but it's what I had at the time, and it was for the type of motors I used it for. But I would buy something like that. That tool's handy. It's going to pay off in the end, and it's just the best thing to have. So let me see what else. I'm trying to think what else I could think of. Well, here's one important one. that this is a must for you guys to have this kind of stuff. Yeah, I was going to use a C-clamp. I definitely would have messed. Yeah, the C-clamp's a little brutal because if you buy a gear made out, then they're made out of brass or steel. I usually get the brass ones because they're soft. The brass is soft, and if you put that, smush it too much, you could damage the gear. So that's really the best way to use is that, because that's a good tool to use. And yeah, it would get messed up. Now the one thing I do suggest you guys buy, it's cheap, you get it from Amazon. There's really no ifs, ands, or buts. You can't get away around this. Is the caliper. The caliper. Now this is an expensive one because I work as a diesel mechanic and a refrigeration mechanic, and I had this in my toolbox. And you don't need to get this. You go on Amazon. There's stuff that's even cheaper for 20 bucks, and it's just the best thing. So this is the important tool. Is the caliper. This is your best friend when you're building slot cars and chassis, because you could measure distances and make sure it's square. This is a must tool. You get the metal ones. If you get a plastic one, what happens is that the plastic ones, these will wear out, whereas metal won't, because the plastic ones are plastic. And this is a good tool to have. And this one does millimeters and inches. So again, this is a really must tool. You can't cheap out on this. This is the most important tool to have in your scratch building toolbox, is the caliper. This you could use to measure tires and stuff. So here's an example with tires. So all the Paul gauge tires have numbers on them, and I've gone over this on the tire video I did. I don't know if any of you guys seen it. So I'm gonna get some tires here. So here's an example. This is a 28 what is it, 28 125, I think it is. So meaning that the outside diameter of this tire is 28 right here. So about 28. That's the diameter of the tire. Now it may be smaller here, but when you mount it on the wheel, it's 28, and I'll show you what I mean. So example, so you're measuring it, and it's obviously less, but when you put it on the wheel, and this is a CB wheel, you have 28 basically, right about there. So let's see, that's 28 in diameter. And then the width is the other part of the number, which is 12 and a half. 12 and a half. So that's where those numbers come in. 28 125. That's what they mean. 28 in overall diameter, 12 and a half millimeters in width. And that's what they mean when they're on those numbers of those tires, when you see them on the packages. That's why it's important to have this. And then again, Slot Car Corner has, its tire tool, which is really convenient. That's good that you got one, Jersey Mike. That's important to have that tool, man. I mean, it's real important. A lot of people don't understand that sometimes, and they're like, well, why do we need to buy a caliper? Well, shit, why do we have tape measures? I mean, we need tape measures to measure stuff. Unless you're some freaking Android that you could see what this is in the diameter, that's pretty impressive. But getting a caliper is important. Very, very important. Let's see. What else I could think of here while I'm here? The jeweler's board. This is at Slot Car Corner too. So this is basically a jeweler's board. So you know how jewelers, solder or whatever jewelry. This is what this is. And this is at Slot Car Corner also. And this is the size you need. Is this one right here. And this is a 11, is it? I'll get my tape measure because I sure as hell don't know exactly what size it is. If I could find my tape measure, which probably not in here. Anyways, the size is at Slot Car Corner. Let me look through my little vast areas, and I don't see it. I think I have it somewhere else. Somewhere tucked away. So this is the jeweler's board, and this is where you solder everything. And when you do start your chassis, I turn wrenches too. Oh, cool. That's kind of, yeah, you know how that is, huh? I work for the Walmart fleet, so our company takes care of the Walmart tractors and refrigeration trailers, so that's a whole other thing right there, with taking care of just one customer. So we don't have multiple ones. But anyways, good. You turn wrenches, that's cool. So this should be easy for you then. So the jeweler's board is what you use to solder your chassis on. Now Harry has explained, now you see I have one line drawn here. You want to get the center line of this because this is where you would know the center line of your chassis. So here, I'll show you another one I have here. This is a 1/32 I use for 1/32 builds, and I used this on the last one I did. Is this one right here, and you can see where I have lines where the tires would be or wheels, and then this is the center line of the chassis. And then I use this as a guide on some of the bodies. So one important thing to do when you get this is to mark these and just, you know, mark your lines. You know, make some lines, distance them. You could get like a car and kind of put it on there, but you just want to draw your lines out. At least draw the center line out, and then when you get your wheels on, then you can kind of mark it and then draw a center line there with the ruler when you're putting your chassis together. And this is like for 1/32 version 1, and that's why I have these all marked. So that's another good one to have. The smaller one here, I use this for 1/25 scale bodies, and this is how I use to mount the bodies, or mount those little plastic struts onto the body. See the plastic strut? I usually put it right here, pin the body, and then these don't have windows, and then I put my, you know, things in there. That's when the chassis is on here. So here's an example of what I mean. So say you got your chassis put together, and then I usually pin the chassis, and I have a video on this. And you're like, okay, I'm a family trucking company. Oh, really cool. Yep. Then you know the trucking business, and dude, just like I do. So you'd pin it, and then you put your body here, and this is, see how that kind of you would kind of figure out where your body would go and stuff, and then you would pre-glue them with super glue your plastic struts, and then you'd you know, epoxy them onto the body. But I use this mainly for putting bodies on. It's a lot smaller. I mean, you can use it for other stuff, but that's why I have that one. Another important tool here, you go, the block. This is from Slot Car Corner. It's important to have a block. This will help you with, you know, tuning your car. And I like to have my tires barely doing that. See how that's doing that? You want the front tires to barely touch the surface of the track. This is one critical important thing, that when you're building these, you want to make sure that you have a sufficient amount of shims to have this just to barely roll on the surface. Now this has got a little floor shine, so it's a little let's make it a little smoother, but you want them to barely touch as you want. See, like that. You don't want them to completely like be on there, because this allows the car to float and allows it to handle better. And then of course, if you have a lot of shims, that's not good. Also on your guide, you don't want to stack shims because that introduces slop. So you want to make sure when you're soldering your chassis that you have the guide tongue at its lowest point, and then you could, you know, go from there, because that'll leave you less shims to have to lift the front axle up. But yeah, the block is important to have. That's one important tool to have. So what else are we going to go into here? Let's see, any kind of other stuff I want to talk about here. So let's see, anybody have any questions on anything? I'm trying to think. As far as what else with hand tools, we talked about screwdrivers and stuff like that. Talked about big pliers. Talked about the soldering iron. Talked about solder. Let me see. So we could go into a little painting stuff. Oh yeah, one thing you do want to get is regular paste flux. That's for your wires. So this paste flux from Amazon. So this is regular paste flux besides the acid flux stuff. So we could talk a little about painting. So on painting, I did a little review on this on Home Racing World. This little airless brush, and this is a, gosh, I gotta get the darn name. I had the paper here, and I don't know what I did with it. I can't remember. Let me see. This is a yeah, auto lock. It's on the bottom. Duh. It's an auto lock airbrush. This is a real cool airbrush. It's a rechargeable battery, and it's rating from 20 to 27 pounds. So it's got a low pressure. And this is a dual action. You have a dual action one here, and then you have a low setting. You can hear that. Okay. Cool airbrush, very easy to use. I use the Createx color paints for this one, and that's what this is, a clear here. And you use the reducer, and this stuff, actually, this really sprays on nicely. I've sprayed some cars in the booth. I have a little booth in my shed, but I've also done it out in the backyard. And this car right here, I did it out in the backyard without a booth, and it came out awesome. This is a Creatix Green Pearl, is what this is. And then I used the Floor Shine to do a clear coat. Now I know I have a clear coat here from them, and I've used it once. It's okay. I mean, I haven't really delved into it too much. But Floor Shine also is a great gloss coater when you have your decals done. And what brand airbrush? It's called Auto Lock. And I got it off Amazon. AUTOLOCK. And this does come off here, so you can take this off. It's not like it's, as long as you have an airbrush to. Oh, 1 second. I don't know if I'm doing that right. I don't want to take it off yet, but it comes off here, and there's a little like check valve there, like a little Schrader valve. And when you push down on this is what it gives it the action. And then the cup comes off, which is nice. So you can take the cup off and clean it. And of course, the tip comes off, the needle comes out, and this is your adjustment here of flow, how much comes out. And then you have your dual action. Obviously, that's just air coming out, and then you pull back and you let it through. Floor Shine as a gloss. Yes, Jersey Mike. There's some guys that use it real well, and the reason why you would use that is because decals are delicate. So like these water slide decals, that's what Floor Shine is good for. You could seal it up like the Area 51 special car that I was doing that I did earlier. I haven't sealed that one yet because I haven't got my decals for it. That's what I would use to seal it up, is Floor Shine. And that's what I did with this one, is Floor Shine. As you can see, it's got not super high gloss, but it's got a gloss to it. But I'm sure if you were to put more coats, let it dry, put more coats, and it dries fast. It'll dry like in like 30 minutes. And think to the touch, I think it's 20 minutes, but it also, if you put your push down on it, you'll put a fingerprint in it, so you got to be real careful. So I would let it sit for like a day or two. I wouldn't put it in a dehydrator. I would just let it dry normally, like air dry. A dehydrator, I think I did it once and it came out all right, but I was kind of scared to do that. But yeah, why not clear coat? Too much gloss. So clear coat is you're talking about like the lacquer type paint. And you could do that, but the problem that I'm worried about is that it'll do like orange peel, and then that would require you to sand the body to get rid of the orange peel. I like using the water-based paints and using the gloss for that water paint. Now, if you want to use gloss instead of Floor Shine, you could use the gloss they make also. And like again, I haven't really delved into this too deeply. I used it on the. Let me see. What did I use it on? I'm trying to think what car I used it on lately. Gosh darn, I can't remember. I used the clear on the chassis. Yeah, that's what I did on the latest mod I did. Came out okay. I could have made it shinier, but I didn't want to. But yeah, Floor Shine is a good thing to seal up like decals. That's why I use it on the tires, to seal the decals, the white letters on the tires. Yeah, Floor Shine works pretty good. It's pretty good. Lacquer, I would stick only with like lacquer colors. But even like this right here, this is what's nice about that 2X paint, is that you could see that I didn't use any lacquer on this, Rob. All I did was paint it, and that's what it looks like. I mean, it looks really good. It looks wet all the time. That's what I like about that Rust-Oleum 2X paint. It's like excellent paint. But if you use that, you want to keep the same brands of paints with each other, because some others may react differently and then cause orange peel. And then I've had one that did orange peel, and I had to strip the body 2 or 3 times. I was like, I'm done with that. I'm not. It takes a lot of time to strip it and then do it again and strip it. But that gets a little frustrating. So, but that little airbrush is really good with those Creatix paints, and you could get the Creatix paints from Creatix Colors, they call it, from Hobby Lobby. Some are more expensive than others. They have a pearl ones that are nice. They have like transparent ones, which are called Wicked Colors. They make some good ones, a little bit more money. It's from the same company. They do some real cool paints. And Hobby Lobby has all that. So you go to Hobby Lobby, and then the Floor Shine, of course. You get that from, the store, Walmart. Let's see, what else we can talk about. So gluing your tires, here's one that somebody's asked me about, gluing tires onto your, when you glue your Paul gauge tires onto your CB wheels, I would use nail polish is fine. That's what Harry uses. Now the stuff I use is from a guy that I talked to in Germany. In Germany, all they use is urethane tires. They hate silicone over there, he was telling me. And for the Carrera cars and like the racing they do on the home tracks, they use this stuff. He sent it to me. I bought it from him. This is a type of German glue. I really don't know what the hell it is, to be honest, guys. I just know it's called Patex, but it works pretty damn good. And you don't need that much. And this bottle is going to last me a long time till I, call on him again. But I can't read German because this is all in German. And this stuff works pretty good. And I've used it on all my, tires here, and it holds on fine. So I haven't had a problem. And that's what I use for that. But you could use nail polish. And I do have nail polish here. And you just have your girlfriend buy it if you feel weird going to the store and asking somebody for clear nail polish. But it's clear nail polish is what you could use for gluing your tires on here in America. I know that shit I got from Germany, but don't worry about that. This will work just as well. And that's what Harry uses. So, whoa, there goes my old man glasses because I'm freaking blind as a bat. I'll put those there. Let me see. For your alternative for windows too, you could use this stuff, but it takes longer to dry. This is like clear glue from Testers. I don't use this because I like the UV glue. But if you're a patient person, you could use this if you want. What else? You know what's really good also is the Testers paints. Actually, this stuff, it's cool if you want to like touch up. And that's what I used here, a little bit of Testers paints on this. As you can see, like on the air cleaner and the motor, that's Testers paints. And that's this stuff, enamel stuff. And that airbrush, you could also use it on lacquer if you want to use lacquer. But this is the paint that I use for, like, small details sometimes on the inside of cars, or the interiors, or depending firewalls and stuff like that. On the Orange Blossom build, that's what I did. If you guys know what the Orange Blossom build is, I could show you that car if you want, but you got to tell me if you want to see it, otherwise I won't go get it. But another one is black wash and gray wash. So I talked about this one. So this is the stuff that gives you the contrast, the black wash right here, this car right here. Oh, thank you for the compliment on the modified Jersey, Mike. So this stuff right here is like really thin, like watery. And you get a brush and you just dab it on, and then you can kind of clean it up a little bit with a rag or pat it, and it gives it contrast. But this stuff, a lot of static model guys use this stuff to give things like depth. And since a lot of, models look really chromy, like, I mean, even this car looks really chromy, which is fine, but if you put a little bit of that black wash and just dab it, it'll give the grill like depth, and it'll look really nice, and it just kind of enhances the look, just like it did in this one. You can see the difference, what I did, and it did it around the headlights. It just kind of gives it a more realistic, not saying that the other one isn't realistic, but more of a realistic look. And then they make it in gray wash. All right, what else should I cover? So there's one thing on the mod build that I did was I made my own guide. You can make your own guide tongues if you don't want to buy one. You can make it out of 8264 brass, and I'm going to show you something what I do. So this, I think, yeah, okay. So this is 8264 brass right here. Okay, now this is like a template. And this is what I do. This is a 9/64 hole. So if you're using the Slotting Plus guide, and I got one right here, this is the Slotting Plus Deep Wood guide. It's got to be a deep wood guide. This is a real good guide. At first I did not like these, and I actually started liking them more because of they're actually a really good guide. They're a little different how you put your braid wires on and your lead wires than the commercial one. But this one's a little bit more, a little bit more work, but it's worth it. So here's my template, right? So this is what I use to make a hole on my other one. So say if I have one that I'm doing, this is like I would just say a template, like I said. And what I'll do is I'll get my piece of brass, which is bad thing. So I do have 8264. So say I'm doing this, I'm trying to make my hole, right? I'll put it right here. Hold on a second, let me get it like this. trying to position this here so you guys can see what I'm doing. This is a, I forget what the hell they call this. I covered this in tools video. So what I do is I get 964 drill bit, and then I get my my pin vise, and I just kind of use this as a guide and make a hole in the other one. And then what I'll do is when the hole is made, I'll pull it out, and then I'll try and get it close as I can to here. And then I trim this with the Dremel and round it out like on the last video I did on my mod. I explained that. And then you make your own guide. And you could also make another one like this, another hole, and stack them. And then you'll have a hole going through both of them. That's one way of making this for the Slotting Plus guide. Now this is a 9/64 size shaft on this. And then if you do make a short one, say it's a short one like, like that, then you could always cut it down if you need to, and you know, depending on how many shims you put. Or you could stack them and it would be higher, and then the bolt, you know, the screw would be up higher on it. There's another way of also making it, which is, what would I say? 1 second here. So there's another way of making it too, with 8129. But let me see if I can find my 8129, which I can't find the damn thing anywhere. Here's 8129 brass. So this right here is 3/16, but the hole size is perfect for that. As you can see, it fits in there perfectly. So you can make it out of this too, right? And say you want to put it, I would use a wider piece of the brass, not on the 8264. I forget the next size down. It's wider, and then you could drill a hole there, your hole for this size, which would be 3/16, and then stick it inside and then solder it, and you have yourself a guide, you know, tongue that swivels on this, and you cut it to size obviously for what you're doing. But that's another way of making that type of guide. Different ways of making guides. I mean, you just have to, again, like I said, experiment what you do as you're building stuff. And then you look at everybody else's stuff too, man, because I didn't learn how to do this shit from like by myself, engineering this crap. I watched everybody else's stuff or looked at other chassis. Everybody has a different way of doing it. Then of course you have your commercial guide, which that's what this is. And there's tongues for that, you know, guide tongues for that. Here's some ones I got right here that are small pieces that you could solder onto. Here's a small type like that. This is like for commercial ones. You can see how it's angled up. That's the way it should be. And it goes like that. And then you can solder this onto whatever you want to also. Or you could do it different ways, you know, of making a guide tongue. You know, this is an example of the Cobra one. And then for the this one right here, you can see I made it out of the 8264 as well, because you can see part of that channel there and how I did that. And I made my own like out of the tube and put it on there. Then of course you have different ones. You see how I used a piece of brass on this one, and then I stacked it underneath it, you know, stacked it and then soldered it underneath there. You kind of want to get this to its lowest point, so this way you could, you know, you could shim it and lift the wheels off the, you know, off the track just slightly, like I talked about. On this one, that's a Cobra tongue guide as well. On this one, the first one is the ones that are stacked. You can see they look stacked there. I don't know if you can see that. It's kind of hard to see that. Let's see if I can put a light on it. And there you go. See how they're stacked there? Just like that. There's two of those channels stacked. And that's how that one is right there. That's this car. So I'm trying to see what else to talk about. So, really doing it is, it's not that hard. Like again, Slot Car Corner has all the pieces of brass, you know, or you could go to Hobby Link. As you can see, you know, on the wall I have all this different brass here. Or you could use piano wire. Piano wire, you can make a chassis out of piano wire. And I'll show you one out of piano wire. Hold on a second, let me go get it. It's a Camaro, a 1/25th scale Camaro. I'm gonna go get it. Here it is. Go grab it. And here's one out of piano wire. See how that made a chassis out of that? you can make one out of piano wire. And there's my bracket. This is a different bracket, of course. And then how I mounted this would put wire, and then I mounted it to the back, made a plate. So this is mounted from the rear and then mounted up here. And this is the slotting plus guide, of course. And this car really runs nice and smooth. And you can see I just cut the wire, and then just made the channels just like this one, but I just made it out of wire. That's the only difference. This car is a real nice smooth runner. I don't have an interior on it. I really finished this car. I need to finish it. Sometimes you build a bunch of cars and you don't have any interiors. And speaking of interiors, so here's that one. So there's two ways of making interiors. We could go into interiors. Let me see. You ever see a jail door chassis? No, sir. What is a jail door chassis? Okay, you're being a smart ass. No, never been to jail. Not yet. Close, but no, haven't been to jail yet. But no, sir. But yeah, it kind of looks like that on a jail door chassis. Huh? But that's that's that one right there. What's your favorite guide to run on the Carrera Digital 132? Carrera Digital 132. Now I'll show you what I recommend, and I have it on another drawer over here on the other kinds of freaking cars that I mess with. Oh, well, you know what? I'll get a Carrera car to make it easier. Hold on a second. I'll tell you what to get. And Slot Car Invasion has them. You don't have to get them from Frankenslot, because Frankenslot was the guys that originally did it. And I'll show you on this Haribo 917 132nd car. I love the 917 Porsches. They're my favorites. I got runners and collector ones in the box still. So this is what you would use. So Slot Car Invasion has these guides. They're the same thing as a Frankenslot, but they're red. These are the best ones to use because they're long. They shut the gates nice, and they're better than the stock ones. And they perform really well, but this is the kind you're talking about. And of course this pops out and pops in. I was trying to see if I had one out of the package. For a slot it, anytime you're running a Carrera car or Carrera track and you're putting other brand cars on a Carrera track, the best thing to do is get a guide for them. So on a slot it, and I do have one on a slot it. So does that answer your question, Rob, about this right here? Slot Car Invasion, yeah. Okay, hold on a second. I'll show you on one that I did, which is a slot it. Let me get it. It's right here in my case, and I haven't used this one in a while, and this is a no magnet car. Slot Car Invasion has these also, Rob. So here's a slot it, and here's another one that's what Slot Car Invasion has too, but they're red. You'd use this kind of guide for a Carrera track. You want them long, you don't want them short, because if you're using digital and then the Carrera grid, it's to shut the gates, because the gates will close when the car passes it, and they open digitally with the light, click, and then they shut when this passes through, because there's a little sensor before the gate, and then the gate will click open, and then this guide being long will run it, will cross it and shut the gate. If you use like the stock ones, they're not going to work as well, but these are the best ones. So Slot Car Invasion has these. Yeah, Slot Car Invasion. They have these ones, and they have the ones for the Carrera ones, which are good guides. These are from Frankenslot before Slot Car Invasion started doing them, and I got a bunch of them from Germany, and I used them on all the cars. These right here are, I could tell you something. Silicone Tires. I recommend not truing them. They take a long ass time. The other cars that I have, they have trued silicone tires, and holy shit, those took about 3 to 4 hours each to true. And I just did other stuff other than was doing it, but you do have to watch it. And I used when you true, which I don't suggest truing silicone tires, I use drywall sandpaper because it doesn't clog like regular sandpaper, because they have the big areas there to absorb it and just kind of distribute it. So yeah, that's those right there. So you like 917s, go to Hardin Creek Slot Cars on eBay, and they'll have a nice. Oh, cool. Yeah, I'll have to get one of those. I do like the 917. I think it's an awesome car in real life. It's something that It's just a really, really beautiful looking car, along with the GT40. Not much of a Le Mans type of guy, but I think the GT40 and the 917 are two of the most impressive cars from the Le Mans era. To be honest, the other ones, maybe the Ferrari P4 and P3, those are beautiful cars too. I have to give that, and those are really nice cars. But anything else, I think, the Aston Martin was all right, but I think the 917, the Ferrari P4, P3, and the Ford GT40, those are probably the most beautiful Le Mans cars ever built, I think. Just my opinion. Somebody else may disagree with that, so let's start a debate. But yeah, you have one. Cool. You have a shirt like that. Well, let's see what else I could talk about. Let's see another questions. I would like to go to Le Mans and see the race. Yeah, I would too. That'd be pretty cool. I've never been there. I mean, it's basically a country road turned into a racetrack. You should watch the documentary, Jersey Mike, if you haven't seen it, called 24-Hour Wars. Have you seen that? Anybody seen that one? Trying to see if you guys answer. I don't know if this is going slow or not. The 24-Hour Wars. That's been there. Yeah. I don't know anybody personally. So there's a documentary. Okay, so you guys check this out. So it's on Netflix. I don't know if you have Netflix or Amazon. It's called The 24 Hours War. It's a real good history about Ford versus Ferrari. I know you've seen the movie probably, Ford versus Ferrari. That movie only covers a small bit of it, and some of it is not true on some aspects of it. Most of it is, but not all of it. Of course, it's Hollywood. But if you watch the one called The 24-Hour Wars, it talks about how Enzo Ferrari got into racing and how Ford Motor Company, got to restart it. And then the whole idea was that Ford was not selling many cars, and Chevrolet was taking up all the market, or GM. And there was always that saying, race on Friday, sell on Monday. It talks about how Ferrari and Ford went to war on the Le Mans, and how Ferrari got the first half of all the victories, and how Ford got the rest of it, and how the GT40 was developed specifically was supposed to be a Ferrari killer. And it talks about the Cobra too, how the Cobra became the Corvette killer. It's a real good documentary. I highly recommend it. It's a really well put documentary, and then it'll put that movie, the Ford versus Ferrari, in more perspective, especially about the relationship between Ken Miles and Carroll Shelby, and kind of how that whole thing came about. I love the GT40. It's a beautiful car. I'll show you a GT40 scratch build I did, as a matter of fact. Hold on a second. Speaking of GT40, it's actually, this is the Ford GT, the later version of it, like the 2006 to 2007, I think it was. So it's not really exactly the GT40, but I'll show you this one. So here's a Polar Lights kit. That's what this is. And I made this scratch built car right there. See, I got the really wide tires, which CB Wheels has, and then the narrow ones in the front. This is a real good handling slot car. And, of course, it's a tray interior, which I'm going to talk about interiors, by the way. And then I put the letters on it, and those are wheel inserts from Slot Car Corner. So it's a sharp-looking car. This really handles really nice because it's low and it's real sleek. And, again, the Ford GT40 is like a real beautiful car, along with the 917 and the Ferrari P4 and 3. Anyway, so tray interiors. I could talk to you about tray interiors. So actually, when you do like the body mount stuff, I use Plastistrut, and this is 60 thousandths, and you can get this from Hobby Link, or you could use wood. Harry's used those paint sticks. You could use that also as body mounts. So, I mean, there's different ways to do it if you want to go on a budget and you don't want to pay for Plastistrut. Stuff like that. Here's another cheap alternative too. So if you're doing tray interiors, believe it or not, how this tray interior on that Ford and this car right here, the mod, which is kind of coming down on the back a little because I gotta fix that, is I use the for sale sign. See this? You cut this out to shape, and this is a tray interior, and this is perfect. You could paint this surface or do what you want. The driver that you would use would be a tray driver, and I'm going to show you a tray driver. And the tray drivers you could get from Electric Dreams. Stock California doesn't have these tray drivers, so, but it's I can find the darn things, and they're not in here. So you have a full driver if you use a full interior, and then you have a tray driver if you use a tray interior. Let me look for them. I can't find the darn things now because I got stuff all over the place. Let me pull out all these drawers to see what the hell I did with them. So you can bear with me. This is what happens when you get into a hobby and you have shit all over the place. Excuse my language. You just can't find anything anymore. Trying to find out what the hell I did with those. And I may have put them in here. Let's see. Let me check it. See if it's in here. Give me a moment. Is this it? No. Gosh damn it. Wait a minute. Is this it? No. Okay. Oh, here they are. Jeez. It would have bit me if it was a snake. I'll show you. Let me put all this stuff away here for a second. Tray drivers. So these are from Electric Dreams. These are tray drivers, 124th or 125th scale. These are really not very expensive. I think the heads are $1.99 and then the bodies are $3.99. It's a lot cheaper than the Cox ones and all the other stuff. And what you're basically doing is you're getting the torso, which is $3.99 from Electric Dreams, and then you're getting the head, which is $1.99. Sounds funny to get head for $1.99, huh? And what you do is you're just pressing that in here, and you'll press it in all the way. And once you got it, this is nice to do because you could paint it. It's really well detailed. You can see you got the 60s type goggles and stuff. What you do is you shove this in there, right, like that. And when you cut your interior out, what you'll do when you have your interior cut out, and let me put that away, and you have this driver in there and everything, and his head's all the way recessed in there, you're going to drill a hole right here, a small tiny hole. The drill bit size, crap, I believe it's a 1/16. That's what you use. And what you do is you drill a hole, and I learned this from Harry because I did when we were doing the land barge series as a trial, when we first built them, me and Scott Colt built one of the early ones to see how they would handle and how it would work out before they started the series. I put a tray interior and I glued it onto the surface of another piece of plastic I had, and I think it was clear plastistrut. It was thinner, and I glued it, and when he was driving it around, the car crashed, like hit something, and the driver popped off. And so he had to take the interior off, and this is something that I got from him. So when you put these on, you drill a 1/16 hole in there, and then you get some what's called they're called guide screws from Slotting Plus, and there's these little tiny screws, and what you're doing is you're screwing this. I'll put this down here. You make the hole, and then from underneath this, you make another little hole, and you're screwing the driver onto the tray. So this way, if anything happens, it doesn't pop out, and that really makes it a lot better to where it won't, come apart, because if glue won't do the trick. Again, you make a tiny hole there, with the drill bit, and you're screwing it from underneath the tray with this, with a, like so, and this is what these are right here. But that's a real cheap way of doing a interior. And then you could do the roll bars. I know with 1/32 somebody is, and I have done it, you could use Q-tips. Like Q-tips, that's what that is right there, is Q-tips. They made a roll bar out of the Q-tips, right? Or you could use plastistrut, of course. They make, different size plastistrut. And you could use the UV glue to hold them on, because UV glue actually glues a lot quicker than the damn frickin' super glue, because super glue sucks sometimes. And you won't get your hands all full of super glue. You could use the UV glue and use the plastistrut, and I'll show you that stuff. And there's the plastistrut. You can make roll bars out of this, see? You can either bend them or cut them and put them together, and this is how you make roll bars out of this stuff, out of this rod here. And they have smaller. This is 2.5 millimeters, and they make thinner. If you want to go thinner or whatever you want to do, you can have them hollow or solid like these. That's how you make roll bars. That's what I did on some of these cars to make roll bars out of them. This was out of that stuff there, but a smaller diameter. As you can see, I made a roll bar in there, and I used UV glue, and then I painted over it with acrylic paint, and then through the tray. This is a tray interior. You see, that's a for sale sign. Exactly what I did there, and I poked holes in there and put the little roll bar in there, and I put UV glue from the bottom, and that secured the roll bar so it won't pop off in any way. And then obviously I secured the driver with a screw, like I showed you. That's why that driver will never pop out. That's a lesson learned that Harry taught me, you know, because he had the driver popped out when he had that car, and he had to put it. He didn't care, but he was telling me, hey, you know, going forward, do this, and it'll keep them from coming out. Now, if you use a full interior like the Fred Lorenzen car, then you'll have to either go to Donkey. Donkey Resins makes these drivers, or I think Professor Motor has some. I think Slot Car Corner may have some. I'm not sure. This is like a 125th, 124 scale driver, and that's when you make your, you know, your drivers. They do make those tray drivers in 132nd. As far as full interior on 132nd, I've never really done that. I've never done figures in 132nd, so I just use a tray for 132nd because that's all these are trays. On the 125th scale side, sometimes I will do a full interior if the interior tucks up enough. See how this tucks up into the body? Sometimes it'll be sticking out too much, and then you can't really. The car will sit too high because this, I actually used the interior as the mounting. No, I didn't. I used plastic strut. There you go. So the interior is actually tucked way in there, and this is plastic strut. As you can see, it's, you know, it fits in there perfectly. And then you'll have to cut out your area for the motor, because the motor protrudes there, and you'll have to cut it. A little bit more work involved. As you get more kind of advanced, you could do that kind of stuff. But the tray interior is kind of like, to me, the kind of the easiest thing to use. I like the tray interior. To me, it works really well, like on the mod here. So those are interiors. What else? I'm trying to think what else people have asked me. Well, I think pretty much I can't think of anything else. Anything you guys have to add or could think of? So I'm glad you're asking questions. I'm able to answer the best I can. That's the best way to do things. It's almost 9 o'clock, so I don't know if you guys are getting tired of me talking to me. Tire truing, honestly, tire truers are really tough to get. I just suggest keep looking for one. I do have 2 tire truers. I have the Huddy. The Huddy is more for like foam and commercial stuff, but I use the Huddy to kind of like get the high and low spots off my tires, and then I use another one which is kind of like a tire raiser, but mine is unique. It is it's got the motor that reciprocates and actually moves the plate. That I got 3 years ago. The guy was making them, and when they had tire truers, it's like, again, I said, I think the only tire truer that I've seen. Yeah, so much to take in. Well, yeah, it is, but I mean, again, if you guys need any help when you're building a chassis, just, you know, text me or, you know, message me, and I can answer you back. That's what I've been doing for 2 guys that have been building 2 chassis, and they're doing pretty good, and they almost got them complete. And usually they'll message me, yeah, hey, what's this and that. I don't care to help you out with that. I can send you links to what I go to and stuff, but just want to say thanks, advice, and showing the NASCAR. Oh yeah, no problem. Yeah, I'm glad you like it. Glad you like that Mark Martin one, man. You can make one out of that, out of a brass chassis. I already showed you. I did it with this Ford Scalextric right here. So I mean, this is a, you know, simple chassis, and it's just taking a dive and doing it, not being afraid to do it. I talk to other people about doing it, and a lot of the answers I get are, I don't think I have the patience for that. Now, that's usually what I get. Well, if you have a patience to tune a plastic car from a factory, I think you would have patience to make a chassis out of brass. And actually, tuning the chassis out of brass are a little bit easier than the ones in plastic, because, you know, it's, you know, to me it is. Some people may say something different. But I'm trying to think of what else I could think of for you guys. Well, I mean, there's a lot of kits out there. That's all I can tell you. There's a ton of kits, and here's one I'm going to be doing. Not in the near future, but someday. I just haven't really got around to it, so I will show you it. So I do want to make this one. I want to make Christine. I got you know, this kit, and I'm gonna make a, you know, a chassis out of it, and I'm gonna make this car. I'll show you one that I did do. I think you guys may have already seen it because I did another video about all the cars that I've done. I have done like a movie car here and there. And one movie car I did do, and I'm proud of this one because I really like this car a lot. Blow it off because it's been sitting and dusty. So now this is a movie when I was growing up as a kid that I remember a lot, along with Star Wars, is the Smokey and the Bandit car. And this is a Revel. Whoa, crashing it. Revel. See how easy that rolls? Didn't damage it. This is a Revel 1/25th scale Trans Am. It actually was a Bandit car because this hat came with the kit, this little hat. And I got the donkey resin figure and shaved his head. And I need to redo his eyes because his eyes are kind of big. But there's Burt Reynolds in there with blue pants, red shirt, like in the movie, and his brown hat. He's got a mustache. And these right here are really cool because these are the actual Snowflake wheels. And what I did was I shaved them around and I tucked them into the deep dished CB wheels and pushed them in there and glued them in there, and it looks like, you know, an actual factory wheel. But this car I'm really proud of. This is a brass chassis 1/8, you know, with all that. Yeah, where's Sally? Yeah, man, they don't have a Sally. Oh, they don't have a Sally. I wish they did. I know I saw one guy in a 132nd had a Sally with her ass hanging out, you know, when she was jumping in the back when they were speeding. But this car I'm real proud of. I like this car a lot. Those decals were a bitch. I didn't do them all. I couldn't do them all. They were frustrating. But I did the most important one, which is the Screaming Chicken. And then you can see I did some up here and then on the side. But this car runs really good, and it's a cool looking car. And I like it, you know. This is the 2X paint black. Came out pretty cool. You know, I mean, not too many people have anything like this. There is a 1/32nd scale version of Carrera. I have both of those. The new one, and or actually the first one. And then I have a gold one, which is the gold Firebird Trans Am. So you said talk about the land barge, Jersey Mike. Is that what you were saying? I wasn't sure if you said take or talk, so I wanted to make sure what you were saying. Talk about land. What do you want to talk about the land barge? Tell me. Now you got a lot of land barges. You want me to show you more of those? I got like, I think 6 or 7 of them. Christine. Oh, talk about a land barge. Yeah. Christine. Okay, you want to talk about land barge, dude? I'll show you something right now. Hold on a second. You talk about land barge. I don't know if you guys have probably seen these in the videos that I've done. And this is before I got into scratch building. And then I build one for Harry out of brass, a brass chassis. So now this is actually a digital car. So here's a land barge, buddy. The Ecto 1. This is a land barge. This thing is huge. And this is actually a working car with lights and sirens. So the lights light up, they flash. It's got all this stuff just like in the movie. And if you look at the Area 51 Raceways page, there's videos on this. And Harry, I built one for Harry. And out of brass. This is my first attempt. This is the first actually scratch built car basically. And you can see what I did is I got the AMT kit that had one in it. And I just put this on the bottom, and then I used the front wheels from the model. And this thing actually functions. It functions really well. And it makes the siren, you know, the wailing siren and everything. Let me see if I could power it up for you guys, because I do have a power supply here. And I could make it sound about so you could hear it. Let me see. Oh, shit. Maybe not. I won't be able to. I don't have leads. But yeah, this thing is cool going around the track, and I have videos on this thing. And this car is It's my first attempt. That's a pretty badass car because I used this on Halloween and put it out, and the kids really love it when they see it go on the track on its own. And Harry, I built one for Harry out of brass as a gift, and it's the same thing as this. It's a little bit different. It has a brass chassis and has the lights. The light kit and the siren were from a place called Model Train Software, and it's Model Train Software. It's called Evans Designs. They make all these LED lights I used on my track platform, and they made a lot of these. They make an ecto kit for this with a siren, and this, of course, this is a little beat up. The little antennas are missing here, and but it works, and it's just kind of a car that, you know, you could see paint job ain't perfect. It's a pretty cool looking car. On Harry's, I did put the aircraft lights on his. These don't have it where they flash here. They flash on and off. His has them. This one doesn't. I mean, the lights work really nicely on this. If you look at, again, if you look at the page and just look at the videos, you'll see the Ecto one running around there. But yeah, this is a land barge, dude. This thing is huge. This is a big car. I mean, you compare it to the land barge. I mean, it's a lot bigger. It's a lot bigger car, man. A lot, you know, it's you know, it's how it was in the 60s, man. But this car is really cool. I really love this car. And it is digital. There's a digital chip. Of course, I covered the IR sensor so it doesn't trip the lane gate, so it'll go around in a circle. This has many tiny wires on it, and it took a while to get this one together. And you can see I did the front wheels wrong. Those are supposed to be on the inside. Instead, these are on the outside. But that's all right. It's a cool looking car. I'm proud of this one. It's been around for a long time, and you know, it's dusty. Dust it off. Let me put this back because it's got its own little spot, and I need to get another case for all these cars because I just have too many. Let me see what else we could jabber about here. Trying to see if I can find another car to show you. Well, I could tell you one thing. We could talk about the difference between 1/24 scale and 1/25. And here's an example of that. I have this Ford Thunderbird. That's a 1/24 scale body. This is just the body. So I have 1/24 Richard Petty Superbird, and I think it's big. Yeah, that's what I'm going to get into. So there is a difference between 1/24 and 1/25. Okay, so now I have nothing against 1/24. I think 1/25 is more realistic to scale. Here's 1/24. Pretty big. And that's what the Carrera cars are. Now I'm going to show you 1/25 next to it. There's the difference. This is a lot bigger in scale, as you can see, because actually this car should be smaller than this one because these Thunderbirds weren't that big. But you can see the difference. It's a lot different. So that's why we like using the 1/25 scale. Not saying you can't use these if you enter something or if you build one. I'm not saying don't build one. But you can see the difference. This is really big compared to this one. This is more realistic to scale to me. So that's the difference between the two. And there's a video where a guy who does static model building compares the two and explains it. But this is a lot bigger. Not by much, but enough to not really make it realistic next to its actual, you know, cousin or grandfather, because this car isn't that big. And you can see this thing's huge. This is a lot smaller, I think. I mean, I'm almost sure of it. At least not that much, but it is smaller than this car because this car is bigger than the Ford Thunderbird from the 80s or 90s, or from the 90s actually. So that's the difference between 1/24 and 1/25. But there are a lot of those out there. 1/32 scale is not. There's not too many of that anymore. It's kind of very hard to find. Anyways, trying to think of anything else I could think of. I think that's it, guys. I don't, you know, if you have anything else to add, I think I'm going to call it. I hope this kind of discussion helps you out. Just, you know, if anything else, thanks for showing up there, Jersey Mike and Rambo Rod, and anyone else who's here. It doesn't show who else is here. I see it says, what, 6 watching now. For the other 4 that are watching, thank you. Hope it encourages everybody. Yeah, you too, man. You have a good evening and a good week. Gotta go to work tomorrow. Oh, yippee. Well, anyways, yep. Well, guys, thanks again. Thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed this. You guys take care, and like I always say, always in my videos at the end, what do I say? I say, have fun racing. You guys take it easy. See ya. You too. Bye.